of 138 as well.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Para OR Normal Guyz. I want to thank Yerg's Radio, and I want to thank Rainbow Radio, Dare Media Talk Radio in Australia, Yerg's Radio, Mastiff Media Radio, and, well, the whole slew of others. Tonight, we've got a great show lined up for you tonight. First, let me bring out my beautiful and lovely co-host, which I know everybody's here to see her, not me. I get it. So,
I wouldn't say that.
yeah, well,
Hello,
hey.
Wendell.
So, yes, hello, Wendell. So we got a great show lined up. We have two great authors again tonight, and Joel has been on here before. He is from the Great White North, and he is going to talk about his book. He's backstage. Let's bring him out. Hello, Joel. How are you tonight?
Hey, guys. Yeah, I'm doing well. Nice to see you again, and Harley, nice to meet you.
Nice
Just be
to meet
careful.
you.
She's a mean one. So,
No, I'm not.
so Joel,
Well,
how have you
okay,
been?
if yes, salty, maybe I am.
There's
Oh,
nothing
that's-
wrong with that, right? I mean, just be you. It's
Well, she is.
2025.
She is her. So, Joel, how you been since we last talked? It's been a bit.
Yeah, it's been a year or two. Good. This year's been odd. It's I mean, obviously I've got a new book coming out. Super excited about that. But I mean, all of my time has been dedicated to, I'd say, the last 7, 8, 9 months to just kind of getting that from rough draft to, something that I think is hopefully readable for the public. And so I've got a lot of writing done, actually. So I'm starting to get a little antsy on ideas are piling up. So looking forward to the cool weather and shorter days in the months ahead to get back to writing.
Is it as hot there as it is here? It's in the 90s here.
Oh, it's about 100 here right now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's smoking hot. We're in a real heat wave. I think we got another 2 days of it till it breaks, and then it'll be better.
Yeah.
It's nice though. It gets down to like 70 overnight, so it does cool off a bit, which is nice.
See,
Not
I'm in
here.
Ohio. I'm not far from you in Canada. And we're going through the heat wave too right now, which is not normal for us. But it gets nice during the night, but during the day.
Yeah. Well, do you get the lake effect there in terms of?
We do. When it comes
okay.
snow time, we get the lake effect snow, and it's worse than the regular snow itself at times.
Yeah. I'm way out west, so we don't have the humidity that Ontario and Lower Quebec get. So it's just hot and dry. It isn't, but I mean, I can't complain because there's no wildfires here. So this is good. I'm not breathing in wildfire smoke. And let's be honest, winter is long in this part of the world. And so, one sort of should welcome the warm
Winter's
weather.
long here in Ohio too. We started in
Yeah.
like
It's funny, like people say,
October it starts and it ends sometimes March, April, May.
Yeah. That's the same here. It's funny because people have this impression of, again, Great White North is what we're known for, right? That it must be winter for so much longer than parts of the US. And actually it's, Pennsylvania, Ohio, like it's not that different. I think our extreme temperatures are more extreme at times. Like we'll get down to minus 45, minus 50 at times. But
and here they'll cancel school for the heat over the cold. Like my kids will still go to school when it's negative temperatures.
Yeah.
But when it gets above 90 degrees here, they'll cancel school. I grew up in Oklahoma, so I grew up in the heat. And I'm like, are you serious? You're canceling for 90 degrees?
Yeah, it's funny. We have the opposite problem. So I'm in northern British Columbia, and in southern British Columbia in Vancouver, it's a rainforest. And so it very rarely gets winter. And so if it gets more than a couple inches of snow, they shut the whole city down. So millions of people will just don't go anywhere, and they have what are called snow days. And so I moved up here 13 years ago, and we get like a foot of snow in November. And I'm like, so we're getting a snow day? And everybody started howling. They're like, snow day? Like, what do you, no, that's not a thing. And
See, I grew up where we had that in Oklahoma. We had snow days, and here they only have it if it's like up past the knees or unsafe for the buses to drive. But
yeah,
that's not
yeah.
very often. They
No,
closed
same here.
for heat, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. It never gets that hot here when school's still in session. This is the time of year when we'll get the heat wave. It'll be sort of second half of July, first half of August it'll hit. And then by end of August, we could be freezing again overnight. So, it does change pretty quick.
Windows in Alabama, so if they
see snow in Alabama. Like, we get really hot. My kids go back to school next month at the end of August, and they're still hot into September. And then instead of like getting into fall, we have fall from like the beginning of September till the 1st of October. Then it rains, and then we get snow.
Yeah, okay. That's actually worse than here. You guys should move, this sounds like a sales pitch for moving to northern British Columbia.
I've been getting ads on TikTok from Canada saying move to Canada.
Yeah.
We're inviting US citizens in, and I was like, that sounds pretty good right now.
Yeah, we actually have, there's a big recruitment effort going on here for American doctors. And the whole pitch is, if you're tired of the politics down there, come up here, because it's allegedly more functional in this country. And I'm not sure that's true, but I mean, if it means we get more doctors, I'm okay with that.
I think all politicians do the same thing everywhere. Lie. Their lips are moving, they're lying.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think politics is the same, doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah, well, I was looking at the temperature while you guys were talking, and it's still 90 here in Atlanta. So yeah.
Yeah, that's hot.
Yeah, I'm so ready for cooler weather. So
hey, Glenn, it's 78 here.
Shut up. Shut up. I'm still sweating.
But we've got the humidity, which is 75%, so that makes it even worse.
Oh, well, apparently you've never been to Atlanta. I think the humidity here, I'd have to look at it. Just close it.
Ours is like a different type of humidity because we got the lake right by us.
Well, Atlanta is miserable. I grew up in Washington, D.C., so y'all are talking about closing schools. Like, they didn't close us in the heat. They didn't close us in the cold.
Yeah.
So they just like to punish us.
I hear Washington can get pretty chilly too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, yeah, I thought coming further south would be better, but it's too hot now. But I told my wife that when we retire, I want to go to Florida, but she's not on board with this. So,
no, this is as far south as you're going.
Yeah, she's like, I want the mountains. I'm like, oh, so we're gonna move to the mountains, huh? Yay!
Yeah, up to Appalachia.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I spent my summers there. I'd rather go to the beach. So.
Yeah,
we still got a few years before she retires, so we'll see what happens. So
yeah, things change.
Yeah, but I mean, she is in charge, so
Yeah, fair. Yeah,
they make the decisions. So, well, but your days are shorter this time of year, right? Or no, wait, they're
longer.
Longer.
So it's not. So it's light out by about 4:30 in the morning, and then it's not full dark till maybe 10:30 at night. So long day for sure.
Yep,
which is nice. It's nice because especially like I like to go fishing, so you get a really nice evening, get a long evening to go fishing or hiking or whatever you want to do. I mean, the trade-off of that is super short days in the winter, right, where the light's not out till 8:30 in the morning, and then down again in sort of mid-December there around 3:30. So that's a That's a short day.
My son moved to Vermont, and so we're going to do ice fishing this winter. So that'll be my first time doing that. So he's like, we walk out on the lake and we drill a hole, and I'm like, okay, you already got me worried.
Yeah, wait until he starts talking to you about having a fire on the lake.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said.
Yeah, and it's fine. Like, it's totally fine. You can sit out there and have a big old bonfire, and like, you're not going to fall through the lake. But it is the strangest thing ever the first time you do it, because you got a big fire, campfire, you're roasting wieners, doing whatever you're doing. The water is clearly sort of melting under it, but it doesn't really go any deeper than that. It's somehow magically it works. So there you go.
Yeah, so that'll be an experience. I can't wait. I've always wanted to do it. So I was like, all right, well, he said this winter, you want to do it? And I'm like, we're doing it. So
yeah, it's a good time. Yeah, it's a good time.
There, it might be his third winter up there now. So yeah. He loves the snow, and he does snowmobiling and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I hear Vermont is beautiful. So yeah, maybe not a bad place to be. Eh?
It really is. Yeah. I didn't know what the Green Mountains were until when we first went there, and we topped, I don't know the interstate name, but you come over one mountain and you come down, and then it just opens up to all the green mountains of Vermont. And when they say they're green, they are like emerald green in the spring. It is the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And I grew up, well, I didn't grow up, but I spent a lot of summers in the Smokies, and I saw it. Wow, that is gorgeous. So, so I'll have to tell you how my ice fishing expedition goes.
Yeah, get a picture. Try to pull something other than a boot or an old tire out of the lake, eh?
Well, I don't have much luck, so we'll see. I'll have a picture of me with like 12 jackets on and a life jacket on top of that.
Pretty much. Yeah. Take a bottle of whiskey too. Might make it a little easier.
Yes.
Glenn's like he'll catch a dirty diaper.
Yeah, quite possibly. They don't deteriorate, or so I'm told.
I grew up fishing in Washington, D.C. We used to catch Potomac whitefish, and inside joke is that was usually used rubbers. So. Yes, it was. That was everybody was talking about. Did you catch anything? Yep, Potomac whitefish. So the last book you had, well, I don't know if it was your last one, but I think you were here with us. You were talking, it was about the wolf and the Thanksgiving. I still need to get that for a Thanksgiving book. I didn't get it last year. I meant to, because it seems like a great fun story, but this one's different. You took a shift with this.
Yeah, I did. Last one was a horror comedy novella, and definitely an adult book. And this is a young adult fantasy action adventure. And I got to tell you, like, I'd love to tell you that was some grand master plan of diversifying my skill set. But at the end of the day, it wasn't. I just started writing something, and I didn't even know it was young adult until 2 years after I finished it. And I went back and started editing it. And I was like, I think this is actually sort of for the 14 plus crowd. Good for adults too. So it's definitely a different flavor book, but it harkens back to my origins as a reader, which is reading sword and sorcery fantasy and pocketbooks from the 70s, 80s, 90s, Dragonlance, Forgotten Realms, all that good stuff, right? And so it's definitely a shift, but it's kind of home for me too, home base. So it was cool to pull it off, and it's a full-length novel, so it's actually my first novel. So hopefully it does okay.
How long did it take you to write it?
Well, I did. It depends on. So the original concept was probably 2 years before I got anywhere with it, and I got sort of like the first chapter done, and I really struggled to figure out like really where to go. And I kept trying, and I was hitting a wall, like literally a wall in the story, and I didn't know where to do. And I actually ended up turning the characters around and pointed them in the other direction, and then it fell out. And I did a NaNoWriMo, which is a novel in 50,000 words in 30 days. And so once I had the idea, I challenged myself to that. And so I did 50K in 30 days in November of 2021. Then I was on a roll, and I did the last sort of 50K in December of 2021 and got it finished by the end of that year. So it was really about 2 months of intensive writing to get it done, just shy of 100K, and then shelved it for a while because in 2022, Wolf at the Door came out, and then in 2024, I had an anthology come out and a number of short stories sort of in between, pretty much all of it fantasy, some of it weird Western, one dark fantasy. And I was busy doing that. And then late last year, I was like, I really need to do something with this. And so I went back and I started reading it again. And I wasn't actually sure what to think of it when I went into it. And I was like, actually, I think this is pretty good. It was what I hoped that it would be, at least for me. It's what I want to read. And so then that started the process of editing and everything. And I got to tell you, I hate editing. Like, I really hate it. And that was part of it. Is I was like, it's one thing to edit, a 5,000 word short story and then pitch it until you get a publisher and then get it out there. Like you can, I look at that and that's a fairly digestible task. But 100,000 words, it's painful. It's painful, right? So I don't know that I have that. Oddly enough, for a writer, I struggle with that level of concentration. I can write it. But editing it, that's where I struggle. So.
Well, I was going to say, would you rather have somebody else do it, though? It's your baby, so.
Yeah, you don't, right? At least not on the first pass. Because that first draft is, for all intents and purposes, it's garbage, right? Like there's something there, but it's unneeded dough. And so I do believe that you as the writer need to go back and do that pass. And sort of clean it up as best you can before you put it into an editor's hands, which is what happened with this one and has happened with everyone. Because I'm a big believer in you do need that outside viewpoint to make your life. Because I could edit for structure and development, and outside editor can do an even better job of that. But I certainly cannot copy edit my own work. You get back into the flow of the story and you start to overlook mistakes, and you don't want mistakes in there, simple punctuation and spelling mistakes and formatting mistakes when you publish, because it looks unprofessional, but I think more importantly than that, it takes the reader out of the book, right? The moment somebody sees an error, so you might get away with half a dozen of them in a novel. And people will be okay, but anything more than that, and people start thinking, like they didn't take it seriously, I'm not going to take it seriously, I'm falling out of the story, that's it, I'm done, right? And then it's a do not finish. So yeah, I take that part of it really, really seriously.
And people can be brutal with their replies on things too. So
yeah. I mean, that's something you get used to. Is they don't know who you are. You're not a human being to them. Right, you're a name attached to a piece of media or text, and they're gonna say what they're gonna say. And it's funny, the early reviews for this have been overwhelmingly positive, like really good. But there was one that came in that was a 1-star, and it's legit. And the person was just like, this was advertised as young adult, but there's a bunch of 4-letter words in it, and I just like. Okay, that's how can that be young adult? And it's funny because I take what they're saying seriously. I'm like, yeah, I kind of get it. Like, depending on what sort of social class or demographic you come from, that might be an issue for you in handing that over to a 14-year-old. Now, when I was a 14-year-old, where I came from, that was exactly what you wanted to read. That's exactly what you read. And 4-letter words didn't necessarily take away from themes that were more around, youth and coming of age and that kind of thing. And so, the young adult is really around the theme of coming of age and your relationship with your parents. And that's the subtext in this novel, less so, some of those adult situations. And so, I'm running a risk there as an author, but it's art. That's what you do. Not everybody's going to like it. Some people are going to spit it back at you. Some people are going to love it. It's kind of theirs now, right? I've done my part, and
exactly.
If it crashes and burns, well, I guess it does. But I'm proud of it. I love it. I think it's a really fun, great book. And so you just keep going, right?
Exactly. You're talking about the 4-lettered words. One of our viewers said that people are using words that he doesn't even know what they mean. But I grew up,
and no, when my daughter was about 14, 15, if not younger, she may have been like 10 or 11. She was reading Twilight and books like that, and those books weren't considered young adult. Well, they were, but
yeah,
they had that thing that could be taken wrong by some authors. And look where she is. Those books are now. They became
right
movies, and you got to start somewhere. And once
you
do that right crowd, you're going to get far.
Yeah, I think you do. And I think, with teenagers, like, it's easy to forget when you get older as an adult that, and just sort of say, well, they're kids, they don't know what we know and everything like that. But,
sometimes
kids aren't
more than what we know.
Yeah, they do. And kids aren't stupid. They're resilient. They're going through tough times. They're facing, very serious things. I know I did when I was a teenager, and aren't afraid of, some of that language or some of those situations. And so, yeah, I think there is, maybe it's not for everybody. Maybe there's a spectrum of young adult, right? I would be probably hesitant to put a 4-letter word in a board book for 4-year-olds. But 14 plus crowd, yeah, there's going to be adult situations in there because they're young adults and they are in fact facing those in real life anyway, and struggling with them for the first time.
And most of them are using those 4-letter words
anyway.
Their parents anyways.
Yeah. And I gotta say, like, I was terrible as a kid. I swore like a sailor from about the age of 9 or 10 on. That was just sort of growing up in the 80s or 90s and with, neighborhood kids. That was just the nomenclature of the time.
And
I don't know if it's any better now. Probably not.
Most of the young adults grow up hearing their parents say that, if not worse. So 4-letter words weren't.
Yeah. I'm a parent to 2 daughters. They're 10 and 8, and I know my partner and I we try our best to keep it. But I mean, actually, she sleeps more than I do. She's dropped a few F-bombs in front of our girls before, and I'm like, hey, like, easy. But I make the same mistake, right? And then you got to explain yourself, and yada yada yada, right? No one's perfect.
I have grandkids. I keep hearing language, Papa. And
my youngest is 14, and he's got disabilities that make it where he can't exactly control what comes out of his mouth. And like, he's got oppositional defiant disorder, and he slips the 4-letter words quite a few times, not trying to, just when he's mad, and he'll do it at school, and I'm like, you can't do that.
No, you can't. But it's funny.
But he's in the smaller class, so they understand.
Yeah, they've got supports in place for him, right? Somebody said to me once, it's probably BS, but somebody said that people who swear more actually have a higher IQ, and I choose to believe that's true.
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Let's go with that.
I agree. I concur. So, I grew up with Eddie Murphy and Saturday Night Live and all that. So,
oh yeah, George Carlin, right? Yep. Right, so, like that's yeah.
My mom still blushes. So,
oh yeah,
she's like, yeah, I can't believe that you watch some of this stuff. I'm like, yeah, well, And then, of course, Eddie Murphy did the switch, and he went to the Disney route. So.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He had a sort of a mid-career, sort of still funny though. God, yeah.
Oh yeah. And I just read that he's going to do the new Inspector Clouseau movie. So.
Interesting.
I'm excited about that because I think
I'll watch that.
Nail it. Yeah, I think he'll nail it. So.
Oh yeah, he'll nail it. Yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah, so I hope that is correct, but yeah, he will nail it if that is true. So, and he's at that point in his career where he can start going backwards a little bit. So,
yeah, or just do whatever the heck he wants, right?
Yeah, he's got all the money. Once now it's just
fun, right? It's just do what you want, man.
Yeah, it's another couple million. So,
yeah.
So, what made you want to switch up your style of writing?
It was just where the idea came from. And in truth, I think if somebody read, my work, you would see a lot of parallels in there. Like it definitely is a darker fantasy and grittier, and has elements in there that are like, oh yeah, this guy writes monsters and creature horror and that type of thing. But I had this desire, and I have had it since I was a kid. I mean, where I originally started as a writer was wanting to write fantasy. And I kind of fell into horror as an adult. It's kind of how that went. I'm a massive fan of horror, and creature features and all those other things. But there was always this piece of me where I was trying to write a fantasy novel, and I just couldn't find the story. And I think I found the stories for the texts for horror earlier. I understood it perhaps a little bit more as a creator, and what that was about. And horror, especially as I was trying to learn how to write short stories, horror was a really good place to start. It was a lot of what I was reading. And then as I honed my craft, I started to naturally gravitate back into fantasy, and really wanted to try my hand at that fun sword and sorcery dungeon crawler adventure, that's a little bit like a combination between a paperback Dungeons and Dragons and like a loot based fantasy game, like Diablo or something like that, right? And I'm a big gamer too, and so that's what this is. It pulls together all those things, and I think it pokes fun in a honoring way to party-based adventures in fantasy, and role-playing games, tabletop games, and loot and treasure, and all those things that come into play. And for me, that was fun. And so with this, throughout the text, there are many. They feed the character development and the plot, but it's almost like side quests, side adventures that are in there, and it'd be like a little dungeon delve chapter or something like that of something that happened to these characters a few years before, and helps explain a little bit more about their relationship. But really, it was my excuse to, hey, let's go into this dungeon and map out this dungeon and see what it's like. And so that's how the novel was crafted, was kind of like dungeon adventure after dungeon adventure after dungeon adventure, but all laced together in this story that really spans about 20 years between a father and a son, and how they come together, and how they develop, how they break apart, and then how they repair and ultimately come back together toward the end of the book.
That sounds pretty good. But when you start writing these, do you have, well, I know you said you got kind of into a writer's block there with after the beginning of it.
Yeah.
Do you have a beginning and end in your mind, or is it just a theme? I guess is the best way of saying it.
I was trying to get to a place with characters. And so the image that I had in my head with this one was of a thief going up a snowy mountainside and then disappearing into the mountain after something and looking over his shoulder. And that image stuck in my head for a while. The geography is based on a real place, which is the Robson Valley here in northern British Columbia, snowy mountains on either side. And then I just used that as sort of the baseline for it. So, but once I got inside the mountain and the abandoned city of Rome, it was, okay, now who are they? What are they? Where are they here? And then that started to come about. But I didn't plot it out, and I didn't know the end. What I did know was that it was a MacGuffin adventure. So, a lot like an Indiana Jones, where there's a certain type of treasure that they're after. And so that's the North Star that ultimately, the story points towards, is getting to this sort of fabled treasure. And I love stories like that. Like they're fun, and you don't take them real serious, whether it's Indiana Jones or National Treasure or, whatever it might be. I love those. They're a ton of fun, globe-trotting adventures or different things. And so I wanted to go to that place and explore that place. And it did, as I said, take a little while in the beginning to figure out exactly who these two were. And in the beginning, I didn't even know they were father and son. I knew these two ran into one another. I thought they were just two thieves different ages. They ran into one another and they kind of don't really like one another, but they're stuck in the middle of the winter, trapped inside this dungeon with goblins lurking outside. What do? Do they kill one another? Do they go after the goblins? Do they go further in? And ultimately they decide to go further in and begin to almost reconcile their relationship on that. But it was a process of discovery. It was only when I got towards the last 30,000, maybe 20,000 words in that second month where I really had to plot it out. Because I knew by that point, I knew where it was going to end. I knew the ending. And then it was a question of, how am I going to lace all of this together in 30,000 words, right? Because I wasn't going to 150. I knew it wasn't that length of a novel. I knew I couldn't keep an audience that long. 100,000 is a real nice sweet spot. And so it was, okay, you got to wrap this up. But I had to wrap up a bunch of threads in a way that didn't feel, I think, rushed. And so I thought a lot about tempo and cadence of the story in that last 30,000 words. And that was when I did start to shape out, okay, chapter by chapter, timeline by timeline. Does this flashback need to happen here? Is this one in order? And I would get down into details where I would go and count, okay, how many flashbacks do I have for this character? How many flashbacks do I have for this character? Are they in the right order? Is that actually making sense? Does the timeline actually line up? Is it dragging anywhere? Like, where is this story starting to drag? And is there pieces that need to come out, or is there something that actually needs to go in to slow it down and make it actually work? So I definitely got into the mechanics of the structure of the story in that last bit and played mechanic for a little while, which I enjoyed, but it was also a grind. And, when you're writing something that long, there is a part of you, at least for me, where I get impatient, especially that last 10 or 15,000 K, where it almost feels like a sprint. It's like, I just want to get to the end. But, you have to remind yourself, you're like, hold on, like any reader who's gotten this far wants a payoff. So slow down, one word in front of the other, one sentence in front of the other, get it on the page, barf it out. But you're gonna have to correct it. If you rush too much now, you're just gonna have more work later on the editing, right? Which you're always gonna have anyway. Yeah. That was what I was trying to tell myself, and it was my first novel too. So you don't really know what the hell you're doing. It is definitely a process of feeling your way in the dark and saying, well, this kind of makes sense to me. It seems logical. I've written things before. But it's like you're doing a house renovation and you're like, hey, I've done a bathroom before. Okay, now I'm going to go try a kitchen. Yeah, some of that is can be applied to the other, but some of it can't. And so you definitely are back into learning mode, even when, even if you have 50,000 down on the front end, that's not the same as 50,000 on the back end. And even that 50,000 on the back end, the last 20 is different than the 20 before it, right? And that was a big learning for me, is that you are in different modes as you go along, and you have to think differently about the text.
Yeah, and when you first started writing, I'm hoping I'm not quoting this wrong, but didn't you do some reporting, or you did some travel magazine? Or
something? I was a journalist in a couple of careers ago. And I did that for a while. That's what I went to university for. I have a degree in journalism. So I'm a newspaper guy, not a broadcaster. And I was community news, so small town news in Canada, then magazines, and then big city business journalism. And so which couldn't be any different than this. I covered things like mining and forestry and oil and gas and, land-based issues, regulations, like all that kind of stuff, really complex, complicated files that you kind of want to get right. Otherwise you get sued by investors and companies. Very different. But what it did teach me, that at least was a universal lesson for writing, is how to write to deadline, how to write under the gun, how to not get precious with your work, and how to get things finished, and keep meeting deadlines and create discipline and habits. And that has been very, very helpful for me as a fiction writer. So I had that going in when I started writing fiction, which was a number of years after I got out of journalism. But what I didn't have is that journalism does not translate into writing fiction. And so it is a much different craft. I mean, it is, I think, analogous to, if you play the piano, it doesn't necessarily mean you know how to play the guitar. And so that, to me, I actually had to go back to school for fiction, even though, I've been dabbling in fiction on the side for well over 20 years. I really didn't know what I was doing. I really didn't know about creating conflict and characters, and a first act versus a second act versus a third act, and themes and consistency. Those were things that I'd heard about, I'd read about, but I didn't understand because I wasn't actively trying to practice that. And so I did online courses. I started reading about writing. I started practicing a lot. I started getting my work out there. And if you recall from our last conversation, though I don't expect you would, Wolf at the Door was actually an attempt by me to understand how to write conflict. That's what that one was about. And I wrote that during that first phase of COVID, when we were all sort of dealing with suddenly a big real world problem. But it was truly a practice in me, like, hey, I'm going to create conflict. I want to see how this plays out. And so I maximized conflict in that book, and it turned out, I think, rather well. And the reviewers would seem to say the same thing. But all of these are a learning process. And I think with this one, The Dungeoneers, it was definitely about learning how to write at length. But hopefully page turning length, right? Not, I don't want to criticize them, but I think I know what you'll know what I mean when I say, like, not dense Dickensian fiction that goes on for 1,000 pages and describes in detail what was on the dining room table. I'm not that kind of a writer. I'm still very much a journalist at heart, which is the words are only in there if they serve the story. Same with world building. Somebody asked me recently, how do you approach world building? And there is extensive world building behind this, but it's you only see it in the text insofar as it serves the story.
Okay. Now, do you have, like, you were talking about world building, do you have like I'll call it your own little Wikipedia book somewhere where you go back and research, Bob did this, or Tom was born here, or something like that? Or
no, I'm not that organized at this point in time. I would say that the if there is a canon to this world, the only canon that exists is in the Dungeoneers. And so when I started writing a sequel, which is I've got one chapter done, but I know the problem I'm going to face, which is that I'm going to have to pull out the first book a lot and say, wow, how did I refer to this then? And there's a lot of that in the editing, where I had to, two of the major influencers in the world are one of them is a big trading company called the Erder and Expanse trading company, the E&E, and the other is the Royal Merchants Guild of Mordred, which is the guild. And they're actually analogous to the Hudson's Bay Company and the Northwest Company in the settling of Canada and the fur trade. And just two massive corporate empires that actually control this basic, what is a fantasy territory, and they hate one another. And as I was going through it, and I was getting towards the end of the book, I was like, what did I call that company again? What was its official title? And I'd have to go back and find it. And then, of course, when you're going through the editing process, I asked the editor, I'm like, you need to make sure that this is all consistent, because I don't have a notebook on the side that has all this stuff. So I actually, if I get so far, and I hope I do, of writing a sequel, I think it's going to be a more laborious task for consistency, because I do believe in consistency. I think that aids the story and invites the audience to share in that world in a more meaningful way. But I'm probably going to have to write some kind of a lore book alongside it to keep me on track. There were some things that I did, like I have a map. I didn't put it in the book, but I actually did create a map to understand distances and geography. One thing that helped me was that the geography was based on northern British Columbia, or a section of it. So I was able to use that, and real rivers, I just gave them a different name. It's real mountain ranges. I just gave them a different name. So that level of consistency and distances and stuff actually already existed. And I knew the land or the place that I was writing from, the types of tree species and all that type of stuff that were there. So that part actually, I would say was a bit of a cheat code to writing this, is that I was using the geography of northern British Columbia and the climate to some extent as a baseline. I didn't have to create all of that. But when it comes to like a magic system, you know, I didn't pull a Brandon Sanderson and sort of figure out all the details here. And that's not a critique of his work at all. I love his work. But my magic system is not fully fleshed out. I would say it's more coming from a place of mystery around how this really works and is consistent, but not really fleshed out and on purpose to make my life easier, but also to add that element of mystery throughout fantasy, which I love as a reader. I don't want to have an explanation for everything, right? I don't want to necessarily know the spell components that go into every spell or how often you can cast it. This is not a D&D adventure. It's a story about a father and a son, ultimately set in a fantasy world.
That makes sense. So what advice, if you had to give younger you some advice about doing this all over again, what would it be?
I'd go back to my 12-year-old self when I first started writing fantasy, and I'd say, get serious sooner, man. You're actually good at this. And stop wasting your time as a teenager, you know, with the social side of things and skipping class and hanging out with your friends and, you know, shotgunning beers. That would be my advice. I mean, those are all great stories and everything. And I suppose they do broaden, if you survive it and you don't hurt yourself, they do broaden your world experience and help you understand people and all that stuff. But a lot of wasted time too. And I would say to myself, hey, get serious about writing, get serious about the craft, pay attention to your English teachers. They're not stupid. And push it. You can do this. You can do this. It would be the advice that I would give myself. It took me until I was in my mid 30s and had success in other careers to have the confidence enough to do this on the side and say, you know what? I am going to do that. I don't want to get to the end of my life and still be wondering whether or not I could write a book, finish a book, publish a book, get anybody to read it. And I really wish I had believed that sooner. I do not regret anything in my life. I don't walk with regrets. But you asked the question, if I did have that opportunity for younger advice, that's what I would say. Say, hey man, just believe in yourself, build the discipline, build the habits, focus on the craft, get good at it, keep going. This will happen. And that would be the big lesson for sure.
But your English teachers may still be stupid.
Yeah, there was one or two I didn't really like, I have to admit. But then again, didn't really like from the 16-year-old version of me's perspective who thought he knew everything. Yeah. And he knew sweet F all. And has only really come to realize that as I've, you know, matured as a parent and got now into my early 40s and all that other kind of stuff, right? So very much the same story that all of us go through. So yeah, maybe some were better than others for sure, but definitely well-meaning people, and everybody can teach you something, even if it's what not to do.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. And that was one thing I went through my entire life. And I don't know if it was a teacher who instilled that in me. You can learn something from everyone, whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing. Yeah. You can learn something from everyone, and everybody's got a different life experience. So, I like that. That's true. So,
yeah, it's your choice in life. Doesn't matter what happens to you, whether it's in creating art, careers, having kids, friends, whatever it is. You don't learn much from success. You learn everything from failure, but it's your choice to, when you have those failures, to either be humiliated or learn humility, or to cower and walk away from it and get angry, or to look at that and say, yeah, I screwed that up. There's a lesson in that. here's what I need to do to be better and keep going. And hey, we're not all perfect. There's been times where I've had failures, and you get righteous anger and think it's everybody else's fault and blah 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 blah. But 100% of the time that I've lost my temper or I've taken that road, I've been wrong further and made another mistake. And the times when I have seen those lessons as for what they are, things not to do or things that other people have done that I don't want to repeat, is actually where I've made progress. And that's a hard thing to learn in life, because it's that ultimately is about what I think a lot of life is about, is that journey of embracing that challenge and trying things. And writing, man, it's a grind. It is not for the faint of heart to put one word in front of the other and hope to God you're going to finish it and that somebody might actually like it, including yourself. And I've come, as I've gotten older, to actually enjoy that about it. The practice of it, even to go so far to say at times the suffering of it, I think is almost meditative and freeing. And so for me, even though I'm writing creature features and page turners and fantasy and adventures and treasures and all that stuff, it's really not complicated. Like, you wouldn't study this stuff in first year university by any stretch. But I do have an artist's approach to it, for sure.
I interviewed
Where can your books be found at?
Amazon and my website, joelmckay.ca. And then hop on Amazon and you can find everything there. There's an author page there. Just search up Joel McKay. You'll see the 3 books there. The short stories, you'll find some links to the anthologies I've been published in from other publishers. But if you want a fulsome list of some of that stuff, then you hop on my website under fiction and you'll actually see the list of short stories where my work has been captured. And I would almost encourage people to do that. Short fiction is usually something that is the passion of literary geeks in university, but it is a great gateway into finding new authors and new voices out there, especially from small indie publishers. Again, we all like to pick up the novel that's sitting in the airport or your local bookstore, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's kind of cool. It's almost like going into a vinyl record store back in the day and picking up vinyl or a cassette from somebody you hadn't heard from before, and trying it out. And so, I always encourage people to engage with anthologies, try anthologies, read 1 or 2 a year, get exposed to other authors. That's how you find things. And it's why I like writing short fiction. I think it makes you a better writer. And I also like being a part of that. It feels really cool. And I would say that if there's any writers out there listening, you learn a lot about publishing, both what to do and what not to do when you're working with publishers of anthologies, especially in small indie presses. Because some of them are going to be a disaster, and you're going to learn a whole bunch of what not to do because they're just not professionally run. And some of them are extraordinarily professionally run, and you're like, hey, that's how I want to do this side of the business. Because there is this other component, we haven't talked about it at all tonight, which is, we talked about the front end of this, which is the creativity and all that other stuff. But when you get into publishing, it's forget the creativity, now it's business. And I think it behooves those of us who take this, want to take this to the extra step to get published, to understand the business side of it, because it's very different and you have to approach it with a different mindset.
One of the things I was going to say to you, I interviewed, I guess he was a military person that was writing a book about his time in the military and stuff. And I asked him a similar question, and he came back with probably one of the best quotes I think I've heard. He said, "Own your shit." He said, when you make a mistake, pick yourself up, go on, own your stuff, and go on, and keep pushing. And like you said, you can do it.
You can. Yeah, you gotta. That's one of the greatest lessons in life, right? Is when you fall down, you gotta pick yourself back up, because no one's gonna do it for you. And what's the alternative? Like, really, what's the alternative? Depending on how bad the situation is, and trust me, there's some bad ones out there. You might take a little while to, lick your wounds and sort of rethink how you're approaching life. And I think that's natural, healthy, and should be done, because some of these things you do need to reflect on them. But it's either keep going or give up, and then then what's the point of all of this, right? Like why are you here, right? Like we only all get so much time. You might as well lean in and see where you can get. And you know what? One thing that's always stuck with me is people who say, like, you know, sometimes you're better to roll the. I'm not a gambler, but I do like the analogy in life of you're better to roll the dice and try, because if you don't, that will be what you regret, is that you didn't try when you had the chance, right? And so maybe you fall flat on your face, doesn't work out, blows up on you. Hell of a good story, and it makes you a character, and maybe that's what you get out of it as an artist is those life experiences you can draw on and pour into your work in a really honest way.
Absolutely. All right, before we let you get out of here, we're going to ask you any more paranormal stuff, stories you got for us?
No, but I've got, so I don't, but my daughter sure does. So my eldest is 10 years old, and I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because she started watching, like, well, she's big into Scooby-Doo, Ghostbusters, and now she's gotten into like the Universal movies, the old black and whites from like 30s, 40s, and 50s. And so I caught her watching Creature from the Black Lagoon and stuff the other day. She loves it, eh? Well, we've been driving around like at night and stuff, and she's like, "Dad, did you see that?" And I'm like, "What is it?" She's like, "I saw an alien. There's an alien in the sky." right. So yeah, she's the imagination is just blooming. So if you had my eldest on here, she'll tell you all kinds of stories of things that she's seen in the wilds of northern British Columbia. And I gotta say, I mean, maybe they're not all made up. I mean, maybe she has seen one or two things out there. So I'm proud that the apple is not falling far from the tree. And I have to admit, as a parent, I mean, I want her to live with reality, but at the same time, as a fantasy and horror writer, I'm kind of encouraging a little bit of the old, cryptozoologist in her. Like, maybe there is aliens, maybe there is Sasquatch, maybe there is, merman or stuff out there, owl man, whatever it is, right? So I don't have anything new recently, but my daughter, she's seen a few strange things on the roads and highways of northern British Columbia in the last year or so. I can tell you that.
That's cool. Encourage her. Because, they say that when you're younger, you're not conditioned to those blinders. So
yeah,
maybe there is something out there. Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, I'm not going to tell her she's wrong. She's seeing stuff I'm not seeing anymore, right?
Yeah, and she may give you some help with some of your characters in book there. So
yeah, absolutely, right.
And you could use that as you just make a sponge and absorb it and get all the details from her.
Everything leads to a story idea, right? That is one of the great things about being a writer.
Yeah, and when she gets older, she'll be like, "You made your living off my imagination, Dad."
Yeah. I want my 50%, pops.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? As I've always said, if I strike it rich here on any one of these things, you can have the 50%. I'm fine. I'll be good with the 50% of being rich. I'm good with that. Right.
I'm with you there. All right, man. Well, I don't want to keep you all night, because I know we try and only keep you for an hour. In the show notes, everybody will have where they can find you, and if they want to reach out to you. And I'm sure you would be interested in giving any young authors advice as well. So, you're very approachable. I like that. Is there anything else coming up? What's next?
Back to horror. Yeah, so I've got the first chapter of the Dungeoneers 2 written, and I also have a full-length cosmic horror novel that is scary as hell, that is written, and I'm in the process of starting to edit it now, and we'll be looking at publishing options. Yeah, Harley, I will tell you, it is set on the British Columbia coast in a ghost town where a pulp mill used to be, and somebody tries to restart that pulp mill and they wake something up. And
I'm big on stuff like that. I just did a show on the Annabelle doll here recently on my other show.
Yeah. So it's I'm pretty proud of it. So I'm just in first draft is done, so I'm starting to go through second draft of it now. It is a Canadian story, a British Columbia story. Definitely has roots in forestry and in the geography here, but at its heart, it is a nasty cosmic horror, dreadful, things are not going to end well kind of novel. So I'm going back to that next time. So I'll be editing that, and then as I said when we first started out, once the Dungeoneers is out here, August 15th, everywhere, paperback and ebook. I'll be hopefully finding some time in the fall when the cool weather hits to maybe get back to the Dungeoneers too, see where that story takes me.
Great. When you do the horror story, you come back and tell us all about it?
Oh, love to.
Ah, awesome. Harley would be more than glad to. She is definitely my horror queen. So I am not that big into the horror genre. So you could have that. I don't like the things that go bump in the night. I'll take the big furry things in the woods. So
yeah, fair enough.
I don't know. Little dolls that chase you around the house. No, thank you. No, thank
you. Yeah, I get it. That is kind of terrifying, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Chucky scared the hell out of me at movies.
Me too. Yeah, my brother, who's 4 years older than me, thought it was a great idea for me to see Child's Play 2 when I was about 6 years old. It was not a great idea. In fact,
an adult and still scared of it.
This is the point in the show where I concede that all of this horror writing is actually maybe trauma based. That was triggered by my older brother. So, I love him. And I maybe owe him some of this, but he ain't getting a friggin' cent of royalties for what he did to me.
He terrorized you.
As an older sibling, it's our job to torture the younger ones.
It is.
Be able to survive as an adult.
Yeah, that's honest work. Honest work.
Oh, that's funny. I'm lucky I was an only child then.
There you go.
All right, man. Well, thank you. And yeah, you can come back and you can scare the hell out of me, and Harley she'll tuck me in at night or something. So
yeah, there you go. Yeah,
but please.
Into a Raggedy Ann doll, Glenn.
No. So no, thank you. But yeah, please come back and see us. You know how to get in touch with me. You got my email and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, please do. I think we'd love that. So, and I'll take fishing stories too if you got them. So
I got them. Yeah, I got lots of those. That's weird things that happen out there too. Yeah.
I may need pointers. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, Joel. Have a great night. Thank you so much for coming on, and I look forward to seeing you again. So
yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's always great to chat. Appreciate it. Have an awesome night.
You too, Joel. We'll see you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. He's awesome. We had him on before with the wolf, Wolf at the Dinner Table? That book. Wolf at the Door. Wolf at the Door. That book just perplexes me. It sounds so great. So I meant to buy it. I always like to buy theme-based, like I bought a Christmas horror movie that was kind of like a Dickens at the fire station last Christmas. I always like to buy a theme-based, for the time of year book to kind of read. And so I meant to get that last year and didn't. So I will definitely do that this year because it sounds awesome. So, and plus I hope he gives me some great fishing tips. So I'm not sure that I want to go out onto a lake and start a fire. Yeah, I'm not sure that we're going to drill holes and then start a fire. Not sure that sounds like a good idea. So, yeah. Our next guest, let's see, James. He's not with us yet, but he's got Rock Hill Publishing, and he writes historical fantasies, and he's got several out. And the most recent one he has is talking about called the Ruby Cradle. It's book 2 in the series. But I want to ask him if we get to it. Hopefully, I don't see any emails. I was just checking. I want to ask him. He's got a mermaid pirate book that sounds very interesting. So hopefully he'll be able to join us here soon. I haven't received anything, but hopefully he'll be there. So I was looking over some of your other shows, and you're doing quite well on some things there. I'm happy for you.
I know it. Things seem to be going like this may sound weird, okay? You know how on TikTok they do the tarot readers do
Hmm?
like readings for zodiac signs? Well, I got one here a couple days ago that said for a Libra, and I sent it to you too. And it said how things were going to change in your life. You were going to cut out toxicity and things were going to start looking up for you and you were going to move in a better direction. Well,
Interesting.
you know what I've done this month.
Yes.
And my views have picked up on my YouTube.
Mhm.
I've going to be going on to the radio here before long once me and him get things all tied down.
Good.
I've joined a new network that's been supporting our channel.
Awesome. Yeah, you got all kinds of good things going on. I heard in my ear here, James has hopped. He's backstage. Let's bring him out. James,
Hello.
welcome.
Hello there. How's everybody doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Great.
Good. I'm good. It's hot here, but not now. It's night.
I was gonna say, where are you at?
I'm in Virginia Beach.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
East
I'm in
Coast.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's still hot. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty hot here in Atlanta. I like Virginia Beach. I grew up in Virginia, so partially.
Okay.
More northern, though, up by DC. So don't hold it against me, please.
I won't. I have kids now that live down there in Atlanta or somewhere near there. So
yes.
Don't hold that against me either.
No, but not at all. I'm an Old Dominion at heart, so not at all. So you have several books out, and your most recent one is book 2 in a series, correct?
That is correct. And that's it on the back wall back there. I don't know how much you can see of it, but it's called The Ruby Cradle.
Tell us about it.
All right. Hold on. I got a better picture of it here.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Okay. So The Ruby Cradle is the second book in the Gemstone series. And the series is about mermaids and humans and dragons. And the mythology is that these three beings are what control the world. So back in the day, they were the three beings that were meant to take control and manage the world. So we start with book 1, which is the Emerald Lady, and that takes us to the golden age of pirates. Now, by this time, mermaids have become myth, and dragons have become mythology. They have faded into myth. People don't believe in that anymore. So Jeremy, who's a sailor, believes in the science of the day. He believes in the wind and the ocean and that kind of thing. And he winds up sailing on a ship, and it winds up going into a hurricane. And of course, the ship sinks, and Shira saves him from drowning. And she takes him to a sunken ship, and she puts him in the air pocket of the sunken ship, and she asks her mother to help her bring him back to shore, send some of her mermaid sisters to help ferry him back to shore. And mother says, absolutely not. He sealed his fate when he went to sea. You should have let him drown. All kinds of stuff. We find out that mom really doesn't like people and everything. And so in book 1, she's out there causing troubles, and she's manipulating mankind into wars and stuff. But because Shira saved Jeremy and they caused this tragedy to happen, she curses them, and she curses Shira that she must remain in human form, but she also must remain by the water. So she must remain in contact with the water in order to live. And Jeremy says, that's no problem. I'll take care of her. And the mom said, well, that's great, because as long as Shira's alive, you can't die. And then he finds out that mermaids live for 1,000 years. And mom intends to torture him for every minute of those 1,000 years.
She's that mean mother-in-law.
Yes.
Oh, I like it. What gives you the ideas for these? These sounds amazing.
Well, the idea for this one came about because NaNoWriMo, which is the National Novel Writing Month in November, was coming around, and I missed it twice. And the third time it came around, I said, oh, okay, I'm going to jump on this. I'm going to do the NaNoWriMo. And you have to get out 50,000 words in a minute. I mean, in a month. In a minute would be really great, but in a month. And the way I used to write, and sometimes still do, is I would write a couple of chapters, go back, read, edit, go write more, go back and forth, back and forth. Well, if you want to do 50,000 words in a month, there's no back and forth. They tell you up front, just write. Don't matter, don't correct, don't do nothing. Just write. Every day write. You got to do like 1,600 words a day in order to get through. So this was going to be a completely new way of writing for me. So I decided I was going to write a fantasy, because I'd done crime stories, I'd done sci-fi stories, I'd done some horror stories, short stories, things like that. I've never done a fantasy. So I said, okay, fantasy. So I decided pirates and mermaids, because I love pirates. I'm pretty sure I'm coming back into this life from a life from being a pirate. So I figured, and of course, mermaids. After all, what you live on the sea, there must be mermaids.
It's kind of
yeah. So I figured, okay, so mermaids, pirate, love story, what I'm going to write about. And as I'm getting into the story and everything, I realized I need one more thing to make this fantasy really come to life. And that was a dragon. And the dragon is the last of the dragons. And the mermaids, in order to help them find Shira and Jeremy, which, mom put sent off into different directions and everything. So Rahima, who is the sister of the queen, and the older sister of the queen, by the way, she goes to the last dragon, and she said, I know you can see everything that happens in the world, because dragons fly, so therefore they have an overview of the world. Mermaids swim, so they take care of the ocean and that kind of thing. Mankind takes care of the animals on land and manages the land, which is why mom was kind of mad with them. She wanted them off the ocean. That was her domain. And with the sail ships and everything becoming bigger and bigger, she don't like that. There's other things in there too that you will find out as you read. But anyway, we go to the idea that she goes to the last dragon, and she tells the last dragon, if you tell me where Shira is and where Jeremy is, I'll let you know where all of your kin are. Because the mermaids had captured all the other dragons and reduced them to their ruby cradles. And so the mermaids knew where all the dragons were, where they were imprisoned. And so she traded them for Shira's and Jeremy's location. She traded the location of the rest of the dragons for their location. And that's what happens in book 1, The Emerald Lady. It's a major war between the mermaids and mankind that mom is, orchestrated. So that brings us to book 2, The Ruby Cradle. And the Ruby Cradle now, the dragons have been released back into the world, and they are just terrible. They were terrible before they got captured, and they're even worse now. And one of the things they're doing is they are driving Aberish crazy. Aberish is the older sister, the one that went and told them where they were. She's instrumental in capturing the dragon. So in book 2, the girl on the cover that you see the face of the cover, that's Aberish. So in book 1, she's already elderly. In book 1, she's back to being. You go through her life and the life of her mother as they capture these dragons and reduce them to their ruby cradles. And Shira and Jeremy's daughter is the one who have to go back in time and find out how they captured the dragons to begin with, and what is the secret of the dragon's power and all that. So that's where we're at now in the story. The Ruby Cradle. It takes place in the golden age of castles around the turn of the millennia, 1066.
Okay.
And these are all historical fantasies. So if you know what happened in 1066, there was a very big change in history, which is the Battle of Hastings, in which the English loses England and the Norsemen wind up taking it over. William the Conqueror winds up taking over England. And so that completely changes the history of England.
Yes. Do you throw any Vikings in your story?
Oh yeah, there's Vikings. We gotta have some Vikings. I'm also a Viking somewhere down the line. I'm sure I lived many lives.
I think we all have. That's great. You know, I was thinking while you were talking, out of all the authors and people that I've interviewed over, I've been doing this for, I guess, about 3 years. I think you're the first mermaid.
Oh.
I mean, no, you know what I mean? and that's funny because I have a fascination with them too. Every time I go to the beach, I'm like, because I explore for Bigfoot. That's my thing. I'm not so much the ghost no, I don't want any of that. I'll take the furry thing out in the woods. But whenever we go to the beach, I'm like, well, there's Bigfoot. There's got to be mermaids or mermen or So that's my thing. And funny enough, I'm going to be writing a book myself, but mine's going to be more like cryptids that nobody knows about that's around the world. And I've had to spend a great deal of time in East Tennessee, which was one of the areas I grew up in. And so I was researching some of them. And there's in Claiborne County, Tennessee, there is a creek that's mountain fed, but it comes up in one section where it's from a spring. And it's the bluest water you'll ever see. And there's a legend of the blue hole mermaid in landlocked East Tennessee.
Oh, nice.
And so I went on a whole thing reading about this mermaid. And the child that I'm sorry, I'll digress for a second. The child that first came in contact with the mermaid back in like 1945, I believe, she either had a great imagination or it happened, because the mermaid, she names the mermaid's name, and I don't have my notes in front of me now, and she talks about the mermaid's family, and the mermaid told her, said, well, you can come with me and live eternally. And she took her in a bubble down to her world and let her see it, and she described it all so neatly. Or you can go home, but you will never be able to come back again. And she says, so basically you have to choose the love of your family or immortality and growing up in like paradise, I guess, so to speak. And of course, as a young child, she went back to her mom. Yeah. But later she goes on in life to write, as an elder, our age, that I wish I had. And so to this day, she still believes her. Well, she may not be alive now, but to her present day, when she was older, she still has the vivid memories of that and wishes she could have done or should have done that. Yeah. So I was shocked that there was mermaids that far inland.
Yes, I was surprised that they would make it that far inland.
Yeah, but she described that there's underwater oceans that connect to the oceans and they can come up anywhere.
Well, you know the Talking Heads, right? They made that song about the water under the water. You know, once in a lifetime. You know, there's water under the water, water flowing into the ocean. Once in a lifetime.
That's right.
I grew up in New York. I'm from New York. I live in Virginia now, but I grew up in New York City. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I came from Washington, like I said, Washington, D.C., and I spent many years growing up in East Tennessee during the summers with my family. My family in East Tennessee. But yeah. So I've always had love. I like the mountains, but we always went there as a kid. We never went to the beach. Not now, but when I became an adult, that's all I wanted to do. I want to go to the beach. Yeah. And it's funny because my son, he's like, if I never go to another beach again, I don't care. He's just give me the mountains. What the hell? So.
Now my family moved. I moved to Virginia Beach. My family moved upstate New York into the mountains, and I like the mountains, but I don't want to live in the mountains. And it's all winding roads and up here and down there, and I'm like, no, give me the beach, give me the heat, the sunshine. I can't live in the mountains. I can go visit. I like to go visit, went camping and stuff like that. Younger, and took the kids camping and everything. But at some point, it's like, no, I'm not living in the mountains. I'm not going up and down hills all day long.
Yes, me and the missus are going to argue this when she goes to retire in a few years, because I want to go to Pensacola, so I want to go to the beach, and she's like, no, we're going to the mountains. I'm like, no, we're not. That's funny. So you said you did other type of writing before this. What did you do?
Oh, I wrote a complete set of books, 4 books about urban crime, adult urban crime, called the Killer Series.
I saw that on Amazon.
You saw that on Amazon?
When I was looking up your books, trying to find the first book to this one to add to my Kindle, because I found that one on Kindle, and I saw those true crime ones come up. I was like, interesting.
Yeah, they're not actually,
because I like true crime.
They're not actually true crime. They're truish crimes or fictionals. As my ex-wife used to say, well, this is more like a fictional than a fiction. And because I grew up in New York, I grew up in the gangs when I was younger. Grew up in Fort Apache, the South Bronx. And then we moved to mob territory. So all my friends were gangsters and mobsters at some point. And the first book in the series is called Killer with a Heart. And it's about the 2 teenagers, Morris Mojo Johnson, who picks up the moniker of Bulletproof because he survives a shootout in a bulletproof limousine, in a bulletproof car. They try to kill him, and he managed to kill everybody else in the car, and he gets away. And his friend, Nicky Nails Roxy, is the son of a mobster. And Nicky always has these great plans. And so one of his plans was to rob a mafia money drop because he thinks they're skimming money off of another family and therefore, and doing it in his territory, which makes it fair game for him to rob them. And so they come up with this plan to rob these people because they figured no one's ever going to figure it's them. And of course, everybody knows it's them. And, and as teenagers, you always think that you got the greatest plan and, everything's going to work out and everything. But that's why Morris gets marked for death, because he also messes around with the mob boss's daughter. And so they want to kill him. And Nicky is the son of a mob boss, so they really can't kill him, although they will try. And so they become bigger and better criminals as the story goes on. Morris becomes an international arms dealer, which puts him into situations with the government, and we start learning about the war on drugs and how America went into South America to overthrow the countries, basically. And Venezuela, is it Venezuela? Argentina, not Venezuela. Venezuela has more oil in it than all of the Middle East. And so part of what happened in the 70s and 80s was the American government was trying to destabilize some of these countries so they can get their hands on the oil, because they knew they were losing control of the Middle East due to the Muslims, kicking out, like the Shah of Iran got kicked out. And so they knew they were going to lose out on the Middle East oil. But then they figured, well, there's plenty of oil over here. All we have to do is overthrow their government. And so it's a continuous story of the government, the crime families, Morris being the head of these gangs, and Nicky being his best friend, how they move in and out of these situations. And of course, a lot of revenge and murder and all kinds of stuff happens throughout the 4 books. So the first book is Killer with a Heart. Start there.
I love your nicknames for him. That first one sounded like a real bluesman. So I was like, hey, he's got it. When you said, I thought you said at first he picked up a harmonica. I'm like, hey.
There is some music involved, but they don't play it. They more like listen to it.
Gotcha. Yeah. I love the nicknames, but that era, that's what everybody had a nickname.
Yeah. Yep. Especially if you was in a gang or you had to have, your moniker, and you would usually give it something because of something you did or things like that. You become, Jimmy the Pipe or something,
I was going to say, what was yours?
With a pipe one day, you become Jimmy the Pipe.
I like it. Well, that's how I got Sport Cat, but that's a long story.
Okay. I see that Sport Cat, and I was like, okay. I think I'll ask you about that.
Yeah, no, that's my little street name. I'm in public safety. Well, my whole career was in public safety, and Sport Cat is a type of police scanner. And they call, when you're young and you like to listen to the police scanner, they call you a whacker. Well, I ended up in my first job in public safety, being in dispatch, and I made the mistake of bringing a bright yellow scanner in to show off, called the Sport Cat. And there are people in East Tennessee that don't know me by my real name. And my wife is Mrs. Sport Cat. There's a half a dozen probably Knoxville firemen that don't know her real name. They just know she's Mrs. Sport Cat.
How many people honestly know my real name, Glenn?
That's true. And I still don't know that I know it. I just can't pronounce it. Your books sound so great. And you sound like you write these from the heart. I mean, you put yourself into them, it sounds like.
Oh, yes. Yes. Some of these stories go back decades, and been rolling around in my head for years before I actually sat down to write them. So it's like the Killer series, I had the whole thing mapped out long before I wrote the first word. And I write sci-fi too, so I have a few sci-fi stuff out there. That Pegasus was one of them. Pegasus was probably the first book that I wrote. And I wrote that one on a train at night, going back and forth to work, because it took me an hour to ride the train to work and an hour to ride back. So I would have my notebook, and when I'm sitting there riding the train, I'm writing down, and I figured I'll write this book in 1 hour chunks. And so it was all about traveling through space and, what happens after World War III kicks off and everything. And it's a Noah's Ark story, actually. We built the first light ship, the first ship that will travel at the speed of light. And that's Pegasus. And they're going to a planet they call New Eden. So Pegasus, the journey to New Eden. And New Eden is in the Alpha Centauri system. We now know there is a planet out there called Proxima B, because Alpha Centauri is actually 3 different star systems, 3 different stars. And Proxima is the red dwarf star. And there's a planet around that. But when I wrote this thing back in the 80s, we knew none of this. We hadn't found a single exoplanet yet. But I just knew there are going to be planets out there. And where else would you go? If you can only travel at the speed of light, you're only going to get so far. So the next nearest star to us is the Alpha Centauri system. Also, that's where Lost in Space was supposed to be going. Do you remember this the show Lost in Space?
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're right.
That's where they were originally going to go until they got knocked off course and went all over the galaxy. Never were they able to find their way back to Alpha Centauri or Earth.
I'd forgotten that. Wow. Okay.
So I figured, okay, the first place you're going to go is probably to the nearest star. And there's other stars that are like 25 years away, different stars that are within a lifetime of getting there. But the closest one is the Alpha Centauri system. So they take everything good off the Earth and they put it in this ship. That's why I said Noah's Ark, because they take all the good parts of the Earth and everything, and they put it in this ship, and they're going to go one-way trip to go settle on what they call New Eden, which we now call Proxima B. So that's the idea, that they're going to do this. And of course, as they're getting ready to leave, things break out because they plan to leave everybody else behind. And by this time, the world has already degenerated into a mess, let's just say. We have corporations which are running the world, and the greed and all the kind of stuff that, mankind is known for is going on. And so they're going to leave all that behind. So Zach and Zuri is going to make a new life for themselves and all this kind of stuff. And what happens is war breaks out, and they launch a ship with only them two on board. And they don't want to be the only one on this planet, and they decide that they need to take over the ship from the AI. They need to get the ship off of remote control, and they need the AI to teach them how to do that, how to gain control, because they have no idea where the ship is going. Zach is a radio man, and Zuri is a daughter of a diplomat. So she has some standing, class standing, because she's the daughter of a diplomat who's actually one of the African diplomats who got killed as Africa was joining. They were trying to join all the countries in Africa and make a United States of Africa. And so her father gets killed, which elevates her to this sort of status of being a princess, for lack of a better word. And so they wind up on the ship by themselves, and now they have to get the AI to try to teach them how to take over the ship. And they have no idea. They believe they're on a 4-year journey to another planet that's uninhabited, and they will be the only ones there. So that's not what they want to do. And they feel that there must be people left on Earth. So they want to turn the ship around. And that's where this goes. And it's a psychological thriller in that they have to figure out how to control the ship and what's the actual secret of the ship. Because, they just didn't build this ship to go off into another planet. That there's more involved than that.
How did you come up with the theory of AI before AI?
Well, I work in computers.
Okay.
Yes, I've been working in computers for quite some time, since high school. As a matter of fact, I probably wrote the first computer virus. Because I went to Catholic school, so that means you automatically do bad things.
Yep.
And we had the first network that I know of in school. And so we had this network between all the Catholic schools in New York and everything. And I was learning programming, and I learned how to do a denial of service, lock everybody out. So I wrote a little program that was like a Star Trek program where you can maneuver your ship around and, fire and all that kind of stuff. And I told everybody, hey, you want to play this program? Put it out there on the network. But of course, if you got into the program, it will lock up this computer. No one else can get into the network. At some point, it's just going to start counting numbers.
Did you ever get caught?
Oh yeah, they came right to me.
Like,
they
we
came
know
right to me. They said, "We know it has to be you."
you must have been a troublemaker.
Yeah.
What is your favorite?
What's that?
What's your favorite? What is your favorite series, like genre that you've written so far?
What's my favorite? Well, it would be the Killer series. Would be my favorite series because that went so deep into characters and into situations. You know, if they go around the world and you have Russians, you have the war in Afghanistan when we was helping the Mujahideen out. So it covers so much stuff. Egypt, so many different things are in those books, and it just spanned it like 20 years from the time Mojo is a teenager to the time his daughter is grown.
You sound as though you studied a lot of history too.
Yeah, I love history. Wasn't really very good at it. I like the stories. I wasn't good at all the dates and everything, but I love the stories, and I fill in the parts that I didn't remember with my own ideas.
Gotcha. Have you ever heard of another author by the name of Harry Turtledove by chance?
No.
He is he's a big shot up there in the alternate history world, and he writes a lot of great stuff, and he does a lot of like the wars, like what if, like the Marvel what ifs.
Yeah.
He wrote a what if about the Civil War, and time travelers came back and they gave the Confederates ARs, basically, in a sense, is what they were. Yeah. So I've been fascinated with alternate history as well. I've read a lot of his stuff, but he started world building, which I'm sure you can do too, because he branched out so much. So.
Oh yeah. That's a good thing about writing historical novels, is because you can build on the history that's there. Like in the Gemstone series, I was building on the American Revolution. So the idea was that during the American Revolution, the Queen was causing the different nations to go against each other, and she was controlling the men because she would take on personalities of this one or that one, and therefore she could control different things. Like she'd become an admiral on this side, and then she'd somebody else on that side, and so playing chess with people's lives. and the mermaids didn't know this. They had no idea she was out there manipulating the world the way she was, until of course she does what she does to her daughter, and they think that's horrible. And then
I'm actually looking forward to read these two books because I have them both in my Kindle right now. And I do have a vacation coming up here soon. So
there you go. Perfect vacation time.
No children, things to read on a plane.
Yep.
Yeah, I love the ebooks. They're so well. I got a ton of books behind me, and another room full of books, and the ebooks are so much more convenient. So
they are convenient, but I spend so much time in front of a computer screen. I don't really like to read on the computer, so I don't really like to read the ebook. But now my eyesight's so bad, it's hard to read paperbacks too. So, and I can't listen to audio.
Have you considered turning your books into audio form?
Yes. In fact, Amazon has got a beta project. So I went ahead and did the Emerald Lady in audio. And, because it costs a lot of money to do audiobooks. No matter how you do it, what you pay the person up front.
Audiobooks are quite popular nowadays.
Yeah, they're quite popular.
I've got ADHD, and it's hard for me to sit and focus on the book or even my digital book. It's easier for me to stick my AirPod in and listen and
See,
go about
I
my
was
day.
I was listening to audiobooks when I was driving across country in different places with my ex-wife now, and because she likes audiobooks, so when she's driving, we'll listen to audiobooks. And I told her when I'm driving, we can't play audiobook because I will not focus on the road, and at some point we're going to wind up in a ditch. I can listen to music the whole trip, doesn't bother me, but people speaking and talking, yeah, I can't do that. And pay attention. And one of the jobs I had as a programmer, I had to drive back and forth to Richmond, and my boss would be calling me up, wanting me to troubleshoot programs as I'm driving to Richmond. And I told the guy after the second time he called me, I said, "Hey, you can't call me up and ask me to troubleshoot programs while I'm driving because now I'm not paying attention to the road. I'm seeing code in my head. I'm rewriting
That's
code in my head."
my oldest son just graduated high school here this last June, and that's what he's going to college for is programming.
Ah, good. Good.
Because
It's a
he's
great
good
job
with
and great life.
coding, and he's been good. He's autistic, so people with autism tend to have that one hyperfixation, and
Hmm.
his is graphics designing and coding, and
Yes.
so that's what he's been wanting to do since like elementary school.
Yep. Because yes, you can get very tunnel visioned into that world, and it's really good. And I'm glad he's going that way. He's going to be very successful at it. And
Because
well,
like with him, he has issues working with other people in the public, and that job he could do just by
yeah.
himself.
Yes, I worked with somebody who was autistic, and he was a fantastic programmer. And he had trouble communicating with other people. He only talked to me and one other guy, Brian, because we knew how to talk to him, and we would give
I've
him our
got 3
code.
autistic boys, and I'm autistic, and my daughter's autistic, so
Okay, so yeah, but it's a good life, and like I said, it's very rewarding, both money wise and creative
hey,
wise.
my middle son, he is autistic, and he's hyper fixated on weather, and since kindergarten, he's wanted to be a meteorologist. Now when he graduates high school, he's gonna be a meteorologist/storm chaser, so
Ooh, I don't know about the storm chasing part,
Yeah.
well,
but
see, he grew up in Oklahoma up until 2018, where he was around all these tornadoes and everything, so that doesn't phase him.
yeah.
And my husband's like, "I'm gonna join you," and I'm like, "Have fun. I'm not doing it."
Well, I used to sit up on a roof and watch the storms come in New York. I used to watch the storm come in. I would go up on a roof and sit there, and I could watch it come in, and I could feel the electricity. You know, it's a thrill, and
We
I
used
have a
to watch
rule.
them coming in, like, when we lived in this little trailer, we watched a tornado jump over the highway and hit the town next to us. It's amazing.
Hmm. I was driving across the bridge one time and down here, and I was leaving because the tornado was might have been coming our way. We don't get tornadoes that often here, but the way they were talking about the thunderstorm coming up, I was like, you know what? I gotta get out of here. I'm getting across that bridge before that tornado gets here, and I seen it coming across the water. So everybody said, "Why are you leaving?" You know, because I was in Hampton at the job in Hampton. I said, "Because I'll be stuck over here. I gotta get back to Virginia Beach," and I'm leaving now because the storm is coming this way. I'm going to go around it the other way. And sure enough, as I'm driving across the bridge, I can see the tornado skipping across the water, heading directly from where I left.
I live in Ohio now, and since we've lived here in 2018, we're up closer to like Michigan, up towards like you could see Canada across the river, and they had one tornado hit here, and it was like a little one, and we were like, "Oh, that's just a baby tornado." And it did some damage because Ohio's not prepared for that stuff, But the people who live here was freaking out, and we were like, "That's just a baby. That's nothing."
Yeah. Well, hurricanes is a big thing here. And one year we got the hurricane. It blew out to sea and turned around and came straight back. Because I said I would move to Virginia Beach, but no further south. And I told my wife that Virginia Beach was safe because of the way the coast curves. The hurricanes usually blow out to sea. They don't come across. They'll hit North Carolina, South Carolina, of course, Florida, stuff like that. But as they come up the coast, they curve out because of the way the coastline is. So this one curved out, made a U-turn, and came straight into Virginia Beach. We got slammed. Yeah, peel part of the roof off my house. The roofing. And my sons are sitting there looking at it. Go, oh, look at that! Look at the shingles flying. Look that! I said, those are our shingles, guys. It's not that exciting. That's our roof that's blowing off.
As an adult, you got to pay for it.
Yeah. I said, tomorrow we're going to be up on that roof, and you guys are going to help me redo the roof.
Yeah, Virginia Beach is beautiful. It really is.
Yes, it is.
It's funny. It was another place I told my wife about. In fact, they've got a great. It's Neptune. It's a statue there on the beach,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they got a statue of Neptune down on the beach. Yeah.
Yep. Very beautiful. Very beautiful.
And they just built a new concert hall down there, and they built some stuff down by the south end of Virginia Beach and everything. It looks like it's going to be really nice. They put a skating park or something down there. So it's a nice place to live. It is.
Yeah.
It's hot and sweaty, but it's nice.
Yeah, well, Atlanta, it's hot. So, yeah, I'm sure you don't want to be tourists.
What advice do you give young authors who are trying to start from scratch?
Just keep at it. Keep working. Keep writing. Don't be like me and, stop for 20 years and become a programmer. It made nice money, but, you don't get much stuff written. And then, when you go back to saying, hey, I'm going to die soon. I need to get these stories written before I pass away. So once you start writing, you'll love it. Just keep doing it. Don't worry about selling it. Everybody thinks I'm going to write a book and then I'm going to sell it. And then I'm going to write another book. No, write the book, start writing the second book. You can sell it in the meantime, but keep writing. Don't wait for that first $1 million to roll in before you write your second book, because you'll be way down the road before that happens. So keep writing, keep at it, and hey, don't do it for the money. Don't do it for the money. Do it for the stories. Put your stories out there. Do it for your characters. Get them out there. Put them in the real world. You'll be more successful that way and more satisfied.
When you were growing up, did you read a lot of comic books with characters in them?
Oh, yes. I was very big into Marvel. In fact, that's how I started writing, because I would read the Marvel comic and then we would trace out the characters, and I'd be working on the next story coming out. Because, Marvel, you had 12 or 13 or 14 or 15 weekly, every week would be the next part of that story. So I would try to guess what was the next part of the story coming up. Stan Lee always had me beat. I'll just have to say that. Stan Lee always had, his stories were better than mine.
Stan Lee was amazing. What I found amazing about that is the whole character universe, or MCU, they had it mapped out 20 years in advance.
Oh yeah.
That just blows my mind. How do you do that?
Yeah, and they had multiverses, and he explained it with the idea that, because you were like, well, how could all these people be there and they don't know each other? And it was like, because they don't all live in the same universe. Iron Man lives in his universe, Spider-Man lives in his universe, the Fantastic Four lives in another. It's all New York City, but it's not all the same place. And then you find out, oh, okay, so you, and then of course he would cross universes every now and then, and things will happen, and this person winds up in that person's universe, and yeah, fantastic ideas. And that's one of the things that gave me the love of writing and storytelling.
I just had a feeling you were a comic book guy. I could tell. Me too. So
I gave my nephews like a huge box of all our comics because after a while, we had saved all these comics and everything from since I was probably 6, 7 years old, 8 years, because it was only 10 cents. You get your dime, you go down to the store, you buy the comic, and you buy one of everybody's, and then and I gave them to my nephews, and they like to draw, so they tore them apart drawing. I was like, oh God, no. You can draw without ripping the pages out.
Do you remember back in the days when they had, was it Silly Putty? You used to put it on the, the comic book and pull it off and then put it on it. I'm showing my age here. James, we ask every guest this. Have you got any paranormal experiences? Have you ever seen a ghost, a Bigfoot, a real mermaid, anything?
I do have a paranormal experience. My aunt on my mother's side, she was the only aunt that on my mother's side. My father had a couple of sisters and stuff like that, and he only had one brother. So I only had one uncle from my father's side, one aunt from my mother's side. And when my aunt was dying, she had cancer and everything. And she was my favorite aunt. We would always go to her house for Thanksgiving and everything. She's the only one we knew who had a house at that time. Later on, we wound up getting a house in the Bronx, like I said, up in mob territory. But for a long time, she was the only one who had a house. So we would go there for Thanksgiving and things. And she was the granddam of the family. So I would go visit her and everything in the hospital. And when she got into hospice and everything, she didn't tell us she was sick at first. But then by the time, we found out about it and everything, she was going into hospice. And I told her I was going to donate blood for her. But of course, she was like, James, I don't want your blood. I know what you do. And I told her, well, you don't get the blood directly out my arm. I'm going to put it in the bank for you and this and that. So I go to visit her a couple of times. And I'm sitting there at work one day, and she seemed fine and everything, even though she was in hospice. She seemed fine. And I'm sitting there at work, and all of a sudden, it just got really quiet. Like all the sound went out the room. Now I'm in a big office. There's machines going, people talking. All of a sudden, deathly quiet. I heard nothing. And I just felt a feeling. I just felt something. And then right after that, the phone rings, and I pick it up, and I know it's my mother. I just pick it up and say, yeah, I know. She just passed through. And my mom said, yeah, okay. And she hung up. And, that was my aunt dying. And up until then, I have been a skeptic and a heretic because, like I said, I went to Catholic school and don't believe in God, don't believe in religion. I do believe in God. I don't believe in religion. I have to keep telling people that because what do you mean you don't believe in God? I said, well, I don't believe in a God like you believe in God. I don't believe in religion.
We're the same way with me and my husband. We believe that there's a higher power, but not traditional religion.
Yeah. I believe religion was made up by people. God is something different. Just like I don't believe in the Big Bang Theory. I mean, the idea of everything is moving away from each other. So at some point, if you go roll the tapes back, it should all come back together. But then, okay, that's fine. But what was there before that? What created that?
Yeah.
You can't have nothing. So, and that's why I say, well, for that matter, that could be God. When people say, well, I don't believe in that, I believe in science. Okay, well, you believe something came out of nothing. That could be God. And if you don't, if you want to believe everything came from this one thing, science, all right, well, then you don't believe in God, but you believe that something came from nothing. So, anyway, that was my experience in the supernatural. My grandmother passed, not my aunt passed, and I knew it. She came by to say goodbye. That's what I felt. She came by to say goodbye. I wound up with all her books, by the way.
She had a love of books as well.
Oh yes, and she had a whole bunch of romance novels and all that kind of stuff. I wound up donating that stuff to the library. I mean, she had all the romance novels and everything, and everybody was like, "Well, James, you're taking the books. You're the writer of the family. You need the books." And as I'm going through them, I'm like, "Okay, this is just one romance novel after another. I'm not reading these."
Yeah, you don't look like the romance novel kind.
Well, see, my kids are going to get romance novels with supernatural books and horror, but not the stereotypical romance novels.
Oh yeah.
Well, you must believe, since you believe in, well, I'll say believe, since you had the experience, you must believe there is something more out there, and we probably don't know what it is.
And I'll probably find out when I'm dead. I'm not going to worry about it while I'm alive. And, there's always tomorrow. I got to eat, that kind of stuff. Yeah. When I'm dead, I'll know. And
that's one way of looking at it.
Nope, nobody really ever came back to tell anybody anything.
No. That's what I say. All the answers, you want to know the answers to all the questions, but you don't give them till you die.
Yeah.
It's like giving you a lottery ticket and not being able to scratch it.
Yep. So I'm like, well, why worry about it? One day I'll die, and whatever I did, and whatever I didn't do, I didn't do. And hopefully, as the song goes, I didn't mean nobody no harm.
Yep. What's next for you?
I'm going to finish the Gemstone series. The next one is the Diamond Warrior, which takes us back into the present world and into the modern day wars, because we still have to get rid of the dragons. So I'm going to do that. And I started working on a true horror novel. It's got to do with vampires and witches. And
my type of book right there.
Yeah. But not your typical vampire. I can't go typical vampire. I have to throw a little something extra in there for them to be vampires.
As long as they don't sparkle, they'll be good.
There's no sparkly vampires in my world.
Well, sparkly vampires aren't real vampires.
Uh-huh. But
who knew?
He becomes a vampire through both of situation of his birth and magic.
Interesting.
Well,
tell me, you're going to come back when you got them. You've been an awesome guest.
You invite me, I'll come back.
I'll
let you know when I'm done. I got to finish the Gemstone series because that one's been going on for a few years now, and because I was writing in between that and the Killer series, it's been going on for a couple of years. So I got to really finish that series, and then I'll jump off and do the horror story. The House of Sun and Shadow is called.
Okay. Well, you've got an open invite, so you know how to get in touch with me. You got my email. It's been a pleasure, James. I will put how to get in contact with you in the show notes afterwards. So if anybody has any questions, wants to get an autographed copy of your book, or
sure,
maybe they just want to write a book themselves and want some advice. So
yeah, I'm also a publisher, so if they write a good book, they can always query me on publication.
Hey, I may be talking to you.
Okay.
Sure. Actually, seriously, I've got the outline. I just got to put it all together, and I'm not very organized. So I'm going to need a really good editor.
I'm a plotter, though, so I'm organizing that in that way. I'm a plotter, so I can organize that way.
Gotcha. All right, James. It's been a blast, man. It really has. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And it has been a lot of fun.
It has. Please come back and see us and enjoy that beach. I wish I was with you. So.
Oh yeah.
Go fishing. There you go.
I haven't been fishing in years. I bought a boat, and that was the last time I went fishing. Now I sit on the boat and drink.
I had kids. That was the last time I went fishing. All right, James. Have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. All right. Bye now.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye. He was great. He was great. I love it. I could tell he was a comic book nerd like me. I could just tell it. So, all right. Well, Harley, we have tomorrow.
I don't have sound right now, so I'm having to listen to it from.
Okay, so you're on tape to play. So we have a great show tomorrow. The big chat coming up. So everybody, make sure to tune in for that tomorrow night, 10 o'clock. It's the live eviction episode for Thursday night. So we'll be live at 10 o'clock to talk about everything CBS Big Brother, because, well, it's like my addiction during the summer. So everybody come check that out. And I'm doing a daily news show now. I would really, really, really like everybody to come over to the Sport Cat shows and subscribe, give me a like, give me a following, because I think YouTube's pushing me down the algorithm because, well, I'm a little outspoken on some things. So come check me out. Search out Sport Cat shows, Para OR Normal Guyz. Next week, I don't think I have my calendar. Next week, who do we have next week? I don't know who I have, but I'm sure it's probably a couple more authors. Our publisher, our agent's been giving us some really great ones. So we'll have a great show next Wednesday night, 9 o'clock. I'm sure Harley will be here for that. And let's see, that's about it. Harley, what do you got going on? I have to wait for her to catch up.
We have the last part of the Led Zeppelin bracket on Saturday.
Yeah, that's gonna suck. I hate Led Zeppelin. Yeah, you're on tape delay. All right. Well, we can make sure to check out the last part of Led Zeppelin. It's going to be long, so I just warn everybody about that. But Harley's got some great shows. Go check her out on her channel and give her a like, follow, share, and subscribe as well. I'm going to get out of here, guys and gals. It's been a great night. We had a great show. Next Wednesday, when you see me, I will be back in Knoxville. So we'll talk about that when you see me, or you can check me out on my daily show. Everybody have a great night, and I am going to send the programming back to Yerg's Radio, Rainbow Radio, or Radio X, Dare Talk Media. There's so many. Just make sure to check out yergsradio.com, Massive Media, Dare Talk Media. Come find us at the Para OR Normal Guyz, the Sport Cat shows, and we will see you guys soon.
We have a 138 about that.